The history of Norton. The Norton Company is one of the old and proud motorcycle manufacturers of Great Britain. Stay tuned to learn their full history. The company was started at 320 Bradford Street in Birmingham in 1898 by James Landsdowne Norton. The company started building motorcycles in 1902 with French and Swiss engines. In 1907, a Norton with a Peugeot engine won the twin-cylinder class in the first Isle of Man TT race. This started a sporting tradition that would last for several decades. Also in 1907, the Norton Manufacturing Company moved to a larger factory at Derrit End Bridge, Floodgate Street, Birmingham. They also started producing their own engines this year. They were available with production models from 1908. The first engines were the 490cc and the Big Four 633cc versions. In 1913, business declined, and the main creditors R.T. Shelley & Co. stepped in and saved the company. It was re-established under the name Norton Motors Limited, shortly after under joint directorship of James Norton and Bob Shelley. Dan O'Donovan, Shelley's brother-in-law, was an accomplished racer and had managed to set a number of records on Nortons by 1914 when World War I broke out. Norton continued the production of their 490cc's and 633cc models well into the war, but in November 1916, the Ministry of Munitions issued an order that no further work on motorcycles or cars would be allowed from the 15th of November 1916 without a permit. Most motorcycle and automotive companies had changed their productions to munitions or aircraft parts, or been devoted to the export trade by this time. In Norton's case, they were gearing towards greater export and announced a new colonial model of their 633cc Big Four. This new model featured increased ground clearance, larger tanks, greater clearance on mudguards, and a sturdy rear carrier. The engine remained unaltered, and it featured transmission through a 3-speed gearbox from Sturmey-Archer. In the beginning of 1918, the magazine The Motorcycle reported from a visit to the Norton Works that Mr. Norton had stated that he expected 3 post-war models. These were the 490cc TT with belt drive for the speed merchant, as he called it, and 2 utility mounts, one with a detuned TT engine, and the other was the Big Four for very heavy solo or sidecar work. The latter two would all have a chain drive. Mr. Norton also stated that they had been experimenting with aluminium pistons. In mid-1918, Norton stated in an ad that the ministry was taking the whole of their present output, but that they had a waiting list. Norton was able to resume delivery of civilian motorcycles again in April 1919. They also resumed racing, and their first win after the war was in the 1924 Isle of Man Senior TT race. J.L. Norton died in 1925 at the age of only 56. Norton came out with their CS1 engine, designed by Walter Moore in 1927, and not much later, Arthur Carroll came up with their new OHC engine. Between 1931 and 1939, Norton won 7 of the 9 Isle of Man Senior TTs, starting their racing legend. Norton had been buying Sturmey-Archer gearboxes and clutches up until 1934, but when Sturmey discontinued their production, Anne had them made by Berman, another manufacturer of gearboxes. Some models of the pre-war and interwar years include the Model 7 Brooklyn Special, Model 8 Brooklands Road Special, Model 9 TT, the Model 16 and 16H, the Model 18 Roadster, the Model 19, the CS1, the ES2, the Norton International Model 30 and 40, and the Model 50 OHV. The main wartime models of World War II were the WD-16H and the WD Big Four. During the war, nearly a quarter of all British military motorcycles were Nortons. This was much because of their connection to the army in the years leading up to the war, meaning it made sense for the army to keep the same model in terms of access to spares and maintenance. After the war, Norton continued their success at the Isle of Man Senior TT, winning it every year from 1947 to 1954. They also gradually increased their range of models. A major addition to their range came in 1949 with the Model 7, known as the Norton Dominator. It became their new premium model twin with more modern styling than previous models. Outside the Isle of Man races, Norton struggled to reclaim their pre-World War II dominance as they faced fierce competition from both Italian machines and AJS from the UK. This changed when Norton bought out their Featherbed frame in 1950. This construction soon became the benchmark for all other motorcycle frames, and it was used in the legendary Manx Norton. In the early 1950s, Norton was in financial difficulty. One of their problems was that they could not make enough of the desired Featherbed frames, and customers lost interest in buying their machines with older frames. This ended with Norton being sold to Associated Motorcycles AMC in 1953. They owned brands such as AJS, Matchless, Francis Barnett and James. Norton's factory in Bracebridge Street, Birmingham was closed, and the production was moved to AMC's Woolwich factory in London. Under the new ownership, a much improved version of the Norton gearbox was developed and used in larger models of Norton, AJS and Matchless. In 1955, the 600cc Dominator 99 came out. In 1960, a new improved version of the Featherbed frame was developed. It was not as wide as the first version, making it better suited for shorter riders as it became easier to reach the ground. The new frame became known as the Slimline frame, and the old version became known as the Wideline frame. In 1963, the last Manx Nortons were sold, but the Manx had become a mainstay of privateer racing, and even today they are highly sought after and command high prices. From the late 50s to the mid-60s, Norton came up with three smaller capacity twin-cylinder machines, namely the Norton Jubilee 250, the Navigator 350, and the Electra 400 with an electric starter. By the late 1960s, the competition from Japanese manufacturers and a declining home market had driven Norton and the rest of the British motorcycle industry into decline. As a result of this, AMC became insolvent and was restructured as Norton Villiers, a part of Manganese Bronze Holdings Limited. On the model front, the 750 Norton Atlas had been in disfavour because of its vibrations, and Norton changed its frame and used rubber bushings, calling this new setup the Isolastic frame. And this new product was the Norton Commando 750, which came out as a production model in 1968. The engine capacity for this model was increased to 850cc in 1973. The Commando outperformed contemporary Triumph and BSA twins, and it was the most powerful and the best handling British motorcycle of its day. This appealing package helped Norton for a while, but in 1975 the company was insolvent once again. This time, the conglomerate in despair was named Norton Villiers Triumph, or NVT, after BSA and Triumph had merged with Norton Villiers in 1973. In the 1980s, the company went through several different incarnations because the name was popular, but now owned by several different parties. The brand was relaunched on an ambitious scale in 1988 in Shenstone near Lichfield. Their new models had success in racing, winning, for instance, the Senior TT in 1992. They were, however, not as successful in the commercial market. In 1987, they had made the Model Classic, which had a Rotary Wankel engine and was based on their Interpol 2 military and civilian police motorcycle. In 1988, they launched the Commander, which had a water-cooled Wankel engine. In 1990, they launched the Wankel-powered F1. However, The Wankel engine presented problems with both high temperature, high fuel consumption, and not meeting more strict environmental demands from the government. The Japanese had found this out some time before, and now it became evident for Norton as well. Chief Executive Philippe Leroux started to diversify the company with investments in property and leisure. Mr. Leroux soon found himself in the spotlight of the Department of Trade and Industry, who had started an investigation into his and his associates' investments. This led to Mr. Leroux resigning from his position as chief executive. In 1993, the company was sold to the Canadian company Wildrose Ventures. During this ownership, the company became known as Norton Motors Limited. This ownership did not last long, as Nelson Scalbania, the head of Wildrose Ventures, did not have the funds to repay what he had borrowed to acquire Norton. This led to Norton being sold again in 1994 to Aquilini Investments. In 1996, the service side of the Shenstone Works was closed and transferred to a smaller factory at Ruggerley, Staffordshire. The main focus of manufacture at this site changed to components for light aircraft engines based on the Rotary design. In the late 90s, Kenny Dreer of Oregon, US was evolving from restoring and upgrading Norton Commandos to producing whole machines. His intention was to produce the 961 Commando, but this work was suspended in 2006 due to a lack of funds. Apart from this failed venture, the Norton name remained dormant without much activity for around 15 years. This was until UK-based businessman and owner of Norton Racing Limited Stuart Garner secured the rights to the Norton brand in 2008. He established a new Norton factory at Donington Park to further develop the Kenny Dreer-based machine. Most aspects of the model were redesigned from the original Dreer design. This new 961cc model was styled after the early Commando models as a single-seat roadster. In 2013, Norton acquired Donington Hall, near the village of the Castle Donington in northwest Leicestershire, as their new corporate headquarters. Despite being granted a £7.5 million loan by the UK government in 2011, the Norton company went into administration in January of 2020. By April 2020, the TVS Motor Company of India had acquired Norton Motorcycles. At least in the short term, they intend to continue production of motorcycles at the current facilities with the same staff. In March 2022, Stuart Garner was sentenced to a custodial sentence for unlawful investments in the business. As for the Norton brand, it now seems they are under ownership of a company with both the financial muscle and the will to set things in motion in terms of a more stable and predictable future. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned for more motorcycle brands explored.